Welcome to 6th grade reading. This is for lesson 141. It's of America 2, pages 164 to 173. We're also going to be looking at our vocab list 29, so make sure you have that out and ready. And we're going to start by looking at a couple of the words on our on the board here. So destined means that to be destined for something, it's going to happen, or like you think of someone who would be destined for greatness. I believe that's the use of it in this context. And so someone they're on the path for that is what that means. And then vain is being proud, thinking only of yourself, having a haughty attitude about yourself, and that's vain. Okay, so take your vocab list out, and we're going to read through these one time or two times, the word definition and word again, like we've been doing. Okay, so this is the list that starts with the word affirm. Okay, affirm, to agree that something is true. Affirm. Countenance, face or expression on it. Countenance. Illustrious, famous. Illustrious. Eloquent, able to speak in a persuasive way. Eloquent. Pelf, money. Pelf. Arsenal, a building that stores supplies. Arsenal. Personified, was a perfect example of. Personified. Diverged, went in different directions. Diverged. Proprietor, owner of a business. Proprietor. Garret, a room on the top floor of a house, usually under a pitched roof. Garret. Okay, let's say that one more time, and we'll say those one more time, and then I believe you're writing those twice as part of your homework today. If not, then don't worry about that, but I think that's what it is today. Okay, affirm, to agree that something is true. Affirm. Countenance, face or expression on it. Countenance. Illustrious, famous. Illustrious. Eloquent, ability to speak in a persuasive way. Eloquent. Pelf, money. Pelf. Arsenal, a building that stores supplies. Arsenal. Personified, was a perfect example of. Personified. Diverged, went in different directions. Diverged. Proprietor, owner of a business. Proprietor. Garret, a room on the top floor of a house, usually under a pitched roof. Garret. Okay, so we're going to be reading the Great Stone Face story and the poem Liberty at the end of the story. Okay, so I'm going to read the introduction, and then I'll read the introduction to the poem, and then I'll go and I'll read a little bit of the story. Someone has said, if you tell me what you think about, I'll tell you what you are. Does this seem unreasonable? It is true in principle, for what we think is ultimately what we become. Hawthorne weaves this truth into a legend of the Great Stone Face, a story based on a human-like rock formation called the Old Man of the Mountain. Okay, and then the poem that you're going to read is Liberty. This poem does not speak about the liberty that makes us free as a nation, but a different kind of liberty. So try to see what kind of liberty it's talking about. Okay, I'm going to start reading The Great Stone Face by Nathaniel Hawthorne. It's adapted by Tracy Glockle, so that means that somebody took this story and adapted it for this particular book. So they may have changed something, they may have taken something out that they thought was unnecessary, or maybe something else. Just that's what this is. Okay. One afternoon when the sun was going down, a mother and her little boy sat at the door of their cottage talking about the Great Stone Face. They had only to lift their eyes, and there it could be plainly seen, though miles away, with the sunshine brightening all its features. The Great Stone Face was formed on the steep side of a mountain by some huge rocks that resembled a human face. All the features were noble, grand, and sweet. Mother, said the child, whose name was Ernest, if I were to see a man with such a face, I should love him dearly. If an old prophecy comes to pass, answered his mother, we may see a man with exactly such a face as that. What prophecy do you mean, dear mother? Eagerly inquired Ernest. So his mother told him a story that her own mother had told to her when she herself was younger than little Ernest. A story so old that even the Indians who had once lived in the valley had heard the story from their forefathers. Some day a child should be born nearby who was destined to become, that's that word, destined, to become the greatest and noblest person of his time, and whose countenance and manhood would look exactly like the great stone face. Oh, mother, dear mother, cried Ernest, clapping his hands, I do hope that I shall live to see him. Perhaps you may, his mother said to him. Ernest never forgot the story that his mother told him. He spent his childhood in the log cottage where he was born, assisting his mother much with his little hands and even more with his loving heart. He grew up to be a quiet, unnoticed boy, sun-browned with labor in the fields, but with more intelligence than many lads who had been taught at famous schools. Yet Ernest had had no teacher, except the great stone face became one to him. When his work was done, he would gaze at it for hours, until he began to imagine that those vast features recognized him and gave him a smile. About this time, there went a rumor throughout the valley that the great man, foretold for ages, who was to resemble the great stone face, had appeared at last. Many years before, a young man had left the valley, settled at a distant seaport where, after getting together a little money, he had become a shopkeeper. His name, whether it was his real one or a nickname, was Gathergold. He became an exceedingly rich merchant and owner of a whole fleet of ships. It might be said of him, as of Midas in the fable, that whatever he touched was changed at once into piles of gold coins. And when Mr. Gathergold had become very rich, he resembled his native valley and resolved to go back there. He sent a skilled architect to build him a palace fit for a man of his vast wealth. All right, I'm going to stop there. I stopped at the top of page 166. I finished that paragraph, so you can finish the story to page 172, and then 173 is that poem Liberty, okay? And that is what you're reading for today, and then you don't forget to study your vocab and do all of the homework for that, and we'll talk about those next time, and that we'll see you next time.